The discovery the wind howled through the empty streets of downtown Chicago, carrying with it the bitter promise of the season's worst blizzard. Jonathan Mitchell pulled his cashmere coat tighter around his shoulders as he stepped out of the gleaming glass tower that housed Mitchell Industries. At 42, he had built an empire from nothing, transforming a small software startup into a billion-dollar technology company. Tonight, like most nights, he was the last to leave the office. Christmas Eve had never held much meaning for Jonathan. Not since Rebecca died 3 years ago. The holidays had become just another reminder of what he had lost. Another series of empty traditions that felt hollow without her laughter filling their penthouse apartment. His assistant had decorated the office lobby with silver and gold ornaments, but Jonathan barely noticed them anymore. Success had a way of numbing everything else. He checked his phone as he walked toward the parking garage. No messages, no missed calls. Even his housekeeper had gone home early to spend Christmas with her family. The city felt abandoned, wrapped in a thick blanket of snow that muffled every sound except the distant hum of traffic and the occasional siren. That's when he heard it. A soft whimper barely audible above the wind. Jonathan paused, thinking perhaps it was just a stray cat or the settling of the building, but then he heard it again. Clearer this time, human, small, frightened. He followed the sound around the corner of the building, into the narrow alley that separated his tower from the old brick apartments next door. The security lights cast long shadows across the snow-covered ground, and for a moment, Jonathan saw nothing. Then, behind a large dumpster, he spotted movement. A tiny figure huddled against the brick wall, wrapped in what appeared to be several layers of mismatched clothing. As Jonathan stepped closer, his breath caught in his throat. It was a child, a little girl, no more than 6 years old, with tangled blonde hair and clothes that were far too big for her small frame. She was shivering violently, her lips tinged blue with cold. "Hey there," Jonathan said softly, not wanting to startle her. "Are you okay?" The child looked up at him with wide green eyes that seemed far too old for her young face. A small stuffed rabbit against her chest, its fur matted and dirty. "I'm waiting for my mama," she whispered, her voice hoarse from the cold. "She said she'd come back." Jonathan's heart clenched. He knelt down slowly, careful not to move too quickly. "How long have you been waiting, sweetheart?" "Since yesterday," the girl replied, her teeth chattering. "Maybe longer. The sun went away 2 times. 2 days. This child had been alone in freezing temperatures for 2 days. Jonathan felt a surge of protective anger, followed immediately by overwhelming concern. He shrugged off his expensive coat and wrapped it around her small shoulders. The fabric engulfed her completely. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Emma," she said, snuggling deeper into the warmth of his coat. "Emma Rose Thompson." "Well, Emma Rose Thompson. I'm Jonathan." "I think we need to get you somewhere warm right now." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But what if Mama comes back and I'm not here? She told me to wait right here by the big building with the shiny windows." Jonathan glanced up at his building, its glass facade reflecting the Christmas lights from the street beyond. His heart broke a little more. "Emma, I promise you, if your mama comes looking for you, she'll find you. But right now, you're too cold to wait outside anymore. Will you trust me to help you?" For a long moment, Emma studied his face. Whatever she saw there must have reassured her, because she nodded slowly. "You have kind eyes," she said simply, "like my mama." Jonathan carefully lifted Emma into his arms, surprised by how light she felt. She couldn't weigh more than 40 pounds, and through the layers of clothing, he could feel how thin she was. When was the last time this child had eaten a proper meal? As he carried her toward his car, Emma spoke in a sleepy voice against his shoulder. "Are you the Christmas angel Mama told me about? She said if I was ever really scared and alone, a Christmas angel would come to help me." Jonathan's throat tightened. Had never thought of himself as anyone's angel. If anything, he had felt more like a ghost these past few years moving through life without really living it. "I don't know about that," he said quietly. "Ain't, but I'm here now, and I'm going to make sure you're safe." In his car, with the heater running full blast, Jonathan called 911. As he waited for the paramedics, he studied Emma more closely. Despite the dirt and the cold, there was something special about this child. She had an inner strength that seemed impossible for someone so young. Even now, wrapped in his coat and finally warming up, she was more concerned about her mother than herself. "Tell me about your mama," Jonathan said, trying to keep her talking while they waited. Emma's face lit up slightly. "She's the most beautiful lady in the whole world. She has yellow hair like me, and she makes the best pancakes. She works really hard to take care of me." Her expression grew sad. "Sometimes she cries when she thinks I'm sleeping. She says we don't have enough money. But we have enough love." Jonathan felt something crack inside his chest. This child's simple wisdom and unwavering faith in her mother's love reminded him of everything he had forgotten about what really mattered in life. He had spent 3 years building walls around his heart, convinced that success and isolation were safer than vulnerability and connection. When the paramedics arrived, Emma clung to Jonathan's hand. "Will you come with me?" she asked, her green eyes wide with fear. "Of course," Jonathan replied without hesitation. "I'm not going anywhere." As the ambulance pulled away from the alley, Jonathan looked back at the spot where he had found Emma. Tomorrow, he would have his security team review every camera, contact every shelter and hospital in the city. He would find Emma's mother. But tonight, as he held this brave little girl's hand and watched her finally drift into peaceful sleep, Jonathan Mitchell realized something profound had just happened to him. For the first time in 3 years, he felt truly alive. The connection in the hospital's pediatric ward was decorated with cheerful holiday murals, but Jonathan barely noticed them as he paced the hallway outside Emma's room. It was nearly dawn on Christmas morning, and the little girl was finally sleeping. Peacefully in a warm bed, her vital signs stable after treatment for mild hypothermia and dehydration, Dr. Patricia Wells approached him with a clipboard, her expression serious but kind. "Mr. Mitchell, we've run some tests, and Emma is going to be fine physically. However, we haven't been able to locate her mother or any other family members. Child services will need to be involved." "Not yet," Jonathan said firmly. "Give me 24 hours. I want to find her mother myself."
Doctor.
Wells raised an eyebrow. "Sir, I appreciate your concern, but there are protocols. I'll take full responsibility," Jonathan interrupted. "Post security if you need to, but please, this child has been through enough. If there's even a chance I can reunite her with her mother by tomorrow, isn't that worth trying?" After a long moment, Dr. Wells nodded. 24 hours? But if you can't locate the mother by then, we'll have to follow standard procedures. Jonathan spent Christmas morning making phone calls. He contacted every hospital, shelter, and social service agency in the city. He hired a private investigator. He even had his company's IT department search through missing person databases. As the hours passed with no leads, his frustration grew. It wasn't until late afternoon that his assistant Maria called with a breakthrough. "Mr. Mitchell," she said, excitement evident in her voice. "I found something. There's a Victoria Thompson who was admitted to St. Catherine's Hospital 3 days ago. She's been in a coma since she arrived. No identification, no emergency contacts. But the description matches what Emma told you about her mother." Jonathan's heart raced. What happened to her? According to the records, she collapsed from exhaustion and malnutrition outside a convenience store. The store owner called an ambulance. She's been unconscious since then. 20 minutes later, Jonathan stood outside the ICU at St. Catherine's Hospital, Emma's small hand clasped tightly in his. The little girl wore a new set of clothes he had bought her, complete with warm boots and a bright red coat. She looked nervous, but determined. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Jonathan asked softly. Emma nodded. "I know it's my mama. I can feel it in my heart." The woman lying in the hospital bed was thin and pale, but there was no mistaking the resemblance. She had Emma's blonde hair, the same delicate bone structure, the same peaceful expression even in unconsciousness. Most striking of all, she wore a small locket around her neck with Emma's kindergarten photo inside. "Mama," Emma whispered, climbing onto a chair beside the bed. She gently took her mother's hand. "I found you, just like you taught me to do when I get lost." As if responding to her daughter's voice, Victoria's eyelids fluttered. Someone emerging from a deep dream, she opened her eyes. The moment she saw Emma, tears began streaming down her cheeks. "My baby," she whispered, her voice weak but filled with overwhelming relief. "My sweet baby girl, how did you find me?" "The Christmas angel helped me," Emma said, looking back at Jonathan with a smile. "His name is Jonathan, and he has kind eyes, just like you said the angel would have." Victoria's gaze shifted to Jonathan, and for a moment they simply looked at each other. In her eyes, he saw the same strength he had witnessed in Emma, the same quiet dignity in the face of impossible circumstances. "Thank you," Victoria said, her voice breaking. "Thank you for finding her. Thank you for keeping her safe." Jonathan stepped forward. "Actually, I think she found me." Over the next several hours, as Victoria regained her strength, the full story emerged. She was a single mother who had been working 3 jobs to keep herself and Emma housed and fed. When she lost her apartment due to a rent increase, she couldn't afford. They had been staying in temporary shelters while she saved for a deposit on a new place. 3 days ago, Victoria had been on her way to her night shift at a cleaning company when she collapsed. She had been eating less and less to make sure Emma had enough food, pushing herself beyond exhaustion. With no identification and no one to call, she had become just another anonymous patient in an overcrowded system. "I kept dreaming about Emma," Victoria said, holding her daughter close. "I was so scared she was waiting for me somewhere, cold and alone." "She was waiting," Jonathan said quietly, "about outside my building. She said you told her to wait by the big building with shiny windows." Victoria's eyes widened. "I did say that. Past your building every day on our way to the shelter. I told her if we ever got separated to find the tallest building with the most lights and wait there, because that's where the important people work. And important people know how to help." Jonathan felt something profound shift inside him. This wasn't just coincidence. This was something larger, something that challenged everything he thought he understood about fate and purpose. As Christmas evening approached, Jonathan found himself reluctant to leave the hospital. He had arranged for the best doctors to care for Victoria, but more than that, he found himself drawn to this small family's incredible bond. Despite having nothing material, it's something he had lost when Rebecca died. An unshakable faith in love's ability to overcome any obstacle. "Mr. Jonathan," Emma said as visiting hours were ending, "will you come back tomorrow?" He replied, "I do," she said seriously. "I think maybe you need us as much as we need you." Jonathan looked down at this wise little girl who had somehow seen through all his walls in just one day. "You might be right about that, Emma." As he drove home through the quiet Christmas night, Jonathan realized that finding Emma had done more than just save her life. It had reminded him of his own capacity for love, for connection, for hope. For the first time since Rebecca's death, he felt like he had a purpose beyond building his business empire. Tomorrow, he would make sure Victoria and Emma never had to worry about having a home again. But tonight, he would go to sleep knowing that sometimes Christmas miracles come disguised as the opportunity to be someone else's miracle. The little girl who had been waiting in the snow had indeed found her Christmas angel. But perhaps Jonathan thought, as he pulled into his empty driveway, she had been his angel all along.